As of just 2 days ago, Governor Ron Desantis, who is governor of the state of Florida, for those that don't know, just signed in some pretty awesome tax cuts. And I want to break down how families are going to benefit from this, how businesses are going to benefit from this. And there's a couple of other things that were thrown in there. Actually, Ron DeSantis did a little PR campaign over in Brevard County where he actually signed this legislation. So I'm going to go over some of the highlights of what he had talked about. Now, if you live in Florida, this could be really, really great for you. So stay tuned because I'm going to kind of explain what has happened. So on May 7th, you saw Ron DeSantis visit Brevard County to sign this legislation of tax cuts that are coming to corporations. But there are also some benefits that are going to come to consumers as well. So for example, we're going to be having some sales tax holidays. This is typically when you get sales tax exempt from when you buy stuff. Here in Florida, we have a 7% sales tax on a lot of things. Certain things like groceries will have a smaller sales tax. But for the most part, we're paying 7%. So if you go and I bought my car over here and I paid a 7% tax on it. So on bigger ticket items, it can be a huge bill. So obviously, sales tax holidays is very attractive, especially to voters and to citizens who live in the state of Florida, because it gives them a break on paying tax on a lot of stuff that they buy. So one of the sales tax holidays is going to be called the back to school sales tax holidays. That's going to start on July 29th and it extends through August. And basically on certain things like computers, laptops, school equipment, clothes, things like that, you'll see zero sales tax whatsoever. So people will save a lot of money on that. Another big major break that people are going to be getting are homeowners in Florida, right? Homeowners that have insurance policy, homeowners insurance. So typically in the state of Florida, we tax people, I believe it's 1.7% on their home insurance policies. So for certain qualifying people, they'll be able to actually get one entire year exempt from tax on their home insurance, which is estimated to save people about $500 million, which is pretty awesome. Now, the third and final thing where consumers and citizens will get direct benefit are toll relief programs. So especially here in Central Florida, which is where I live, there are a lot of tolls. Down in South Florida, when I live down there are some tolls if you take, the turnpike. There are certain state highways also that are going to charge tolls, but not a lot down in Miami and Palm Beach areas and stuff. Those are places I've lived before. But here in Orlando, there seems to be actually a lot of tolls everywhere. So I totally understand that. But essentially, the commuters, people who drive through with their Sun Pass, they get clicked. They get obviously charged for that toll. But at the end of the month, they're going to slash those tolls by 50%. So that should give some immediate relief to a lot of people. But I also want to talk about these corporate tax cuts and how that can also indirectly help families out. So certain corporations that qualify will be getting some pretty big tax cuts and tax relief. So one of the things though is that corporations that offer childcare, so if you have an employee that have children and they have to go to work, they have to figure out what to do with the kids, right? And a lot of times you have people hiring babysitters. So let's say that you work for $25 an hour and you have to leave your child at home. And obviously you just cannot leave them alone. You need a babysitter. So if you're paying a babysitter $10 an hour and you're working for $25, now you're only making $15 an hour. And after tax, with prices so as high as they are today, that's going to be impossible. So what I think is really cool about this is when corporations get tax relief, they get incentivized, and you have more employers that will probably start to actually offer childcare in order to receive these tax credits, which can really help out a lot of families, in my opinion. So I think that that's actually pretty cool. So this all happened 2 days ago. But one thing that happened in the press conference that I thought was very interesting, something that was said by Ron DeSantis is, how he was talking about the surpluses that we have in Florida, right? So typically when you're looking at government spending, whether it's on the local state level or whether it's on the federal level from the federal government, we look at, what are called deficits, which means that obviously if we bring in $100, just as an example, let's say, make the math very easy. If you bring in $100 from tax revenue, but then you go and spend $200, then you have a deficit of $100, right? And this is exactly what the federal government is doing, is that they're spending a lot more money than what they are collecting in tax revenue. So that deficit continues to get larger and larger every single year. So one thing that was mentioned in the press conference I thought was interesting. So Florida is in a surplus, which is the opposite. It means that they're collecting a lot more in taxes than what they've spent. So they have some extra money laying around. That's part of the reasons that these tax cuts can happen, is because Florida's in a better financial position than a lot of other states, and especially in a better financial position than the federal government. So one of the statistics that he had listed off that I thought was interesting is if you take the entire tax liability of the state of Florida and divide it among all of the different citizens in Florida, like what each person in Florida would owe if we divided the debt between everybody would be around like $600-700, something like that per person. Okay. Now, if you were to take the national government, if you take the federal government's debt and divide that per American, it's more like $100,000. Okay, so that should show you a very clear difference between the way that states are handling their fiscal responsibility versus the federal government, which just continues to spend and spend and spend, creating these big, massive deficits that only continue to get larger. And as I said before, if you were to just take all the debt and divide it by all the people and see what each person owed to pay back the debt, it would be like $100,000. And that number is gonna go up and up and up and up because again, the deficits just only get larger. So tax cuts are coming. I think this is gonna be great for consumers in Florida, but also, this should really go to show how big of a fiscal mistake the federal government is making too. Federal government is out of control what they're spending, and this can have huge implications on me and you. Mainly because if we are running these big deficits, see, these deficits can't just go, they just can't exist without anything happening. I mean, these deficits have to be financed somehow. So my guess is that they're going to either try to borrow more money by issuing treasuries and issuing federal government bonds, or they're going to have to print the money, right? Because if nobody wants to buy these bonds, then how are they going to get the money to cover these deficits? Well, they'll have to print it. And by printing that money, we create more inflation. It devalues your money. And people in the middle class start to struggle more and more and more. The wealth gap gets bigger, and the rich people, the top 1%, get wealthier because even though prices might be going up, look at the businesses that are selling the products that are going up in prices. It's all the wealthy people. So they're ones that benefit from inflation. I've said this before. I don't know if I've made any videos about this, but rich people love inflation. The federal government loves inflation, but it's really, really bad for people like me and you who are in the middle class, people who just average working class Americans. It's really bad for us because prices go up and everything is unaffordable and we have to start getting 2-3 jobs just to survive. And the federal government loves it because they just print money and they can pay down their debt easily. Rich people love it because they can charge more money for their stuff because they run the businesses, and also they own a lot of assets, and those tend to inflate as well. So you have to be on the right side of inflation. One of the big themes that I have on this channel is that you can actually use inflation as a tool to get rich. You just have to do what the rich people are doing. And so if you guys are new to the stock market, you haven't done a lot of investing, but you want to get started so that you can be on the right side of this battle, then you need to join my investment club. That's where I teach you guys all the strategies that I've used. My portfolios are hitting all-time highs consistently this year. And so I want to teach you guys how I'm doing that. So if you want more information, click the links down below in the description. You can join my investment club today. And I also, in that investment club, I love to talk about the stocks that politicians are buying, corporate insiders, hedge funds. So I really tend to follow where the money is going. And then that's where I tend to invest. So I always give you guys all the insights on all that stuff. So you can take a look at that by clicking the link down below in the description. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know. But I hope that this video was informative. Lots of tax cuts are coming, and that's very exciting. But let me know what you guys think about these tax cuts down below in the comments. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are too. See you in the next video.